Hey guys, welcome back to another fabulous edition of Need More Coffee, Please, with Cisco and Melissa. I'm Cisco.
I'm Melissa.
And thank you so much for being here. Before we get too far, do not forget to smash that like button and please subscribe as well as comment. We really do appreciate you for doing that. That would help us out a ton. And yeah, so thanks again. Thanks for being here. And do you want to?
Today,
Yeah.
we're going to talk about, have you ever felt like God was calling you to do something that was out of your character? So that's what we're going to talk about today. When, God calls you to do something that you don't feel like you're naturally gifted at, or that like matches your personality. So, we all have natural giftings that we're born with or things that we're just, naturally good at. And then there's things that we either perceive ourselves as not being good at or don't think we're good at.
Don't want to be good at.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And sometimes, God does use us in the ways that we are naturally gifted in. I think oftentimes he does. But then there are a lot of times when he is asking something that you're like, are you sure?
Mm-hmm.
And, it can be really hard. And I think cause a lot of people to, dig in their heels on it and not really just be like, I know, yeah, for us, like, it's definitely been the case, but many times where we're like, no, there's no way, like that's just not who we are, that's not who I am or he is. And anyway, so before I get too far ahead of ourselves,
like for example, what we're doing right now, this YouTube thing and being more online and
being in front of a camera.
Yeah, being in front of a camera. It's not us, not me for sure.
Not ever something we thought.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah, it's definitely not in our personality or in our wheelhouse, so to
comfort
speak.
zone.
Comfort zone, yeah, for sure.
All that.
And so when we really felt like the Lord was calling us to do this, we were resistant. Like we're like, that doesn't seem right. There's no way that's what God wants us to do. To be on YouTube, that seems very self-promoting. There's a very self-promoting and very all about you. And you see all these people online and influencers, and
they're all young, like in their 20s.
Yeah, they're all young, pretty, got it all together, super edited, and just seems like they got life figured out.
Yeah.
And then, here we are. not the case at all. And so when we really felt like the Lord was calling us to do this, it didn't fit. It didn't match us or what we thought was us or what we thought was
we've always been kind of more behind the scenes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Type of people, as we've mentioned in other episodes, but that's more our comfort area, not the one in front and center.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Not at all. And so it was, there was some resistance for sure. And we probably put it off longer than we should have because we were just like, nah, this can't be, this can't be right. And it took us, it took us some time to do it. And then even as we were doing it, like we're still learning, we're still figuring this thing out. We don't know, in a lot of ways, we don't know what the heck we're doing, we're learning along the way. And
yeah, but I think, it's like in those things that you're not comfortable in and is out of your comfort zone that causes you to lean on the Lord a whole lot more than something that you're naturally good at, and that you feel very confident in. So yeah, I think that's, probably a big reason why he does it and why it's really good because you learn a lot and you learn to lean on him and his strength and trust that he knows more than you.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
So,
Yeah. And a big example of that, and thankfully we have lots of examples of that in the Bible
mhm,
of God using and calling people who were at first maybe resistant or reluctant, or maybe they thought God was making a mistake by calling them to do that. And yet God used them in amazing and mighty ways. So Moses is a prime example. Obviously, he was a Hebrew who was given up by his mom for persecution reasons and was raised by Pharaoh's daughter. Eventually, became kind of a leader, a prince of Egypt in that world. And then God called him to lead his people out of Egypt against the very people who raised him, and he famously said, like, God, I'm slow of speech. Like I'm not the one. I'm not the one that can speak, who can do this at that time. Most likely it was hundreds of thousands or even millions of people that he was leading out, and to be the leader of such a large group and to have to speak in front of them, he felt inadequate. He didn't feel like he should be called. Maybe that God made a mistake. And obviously, eventually, he agreed to do what the Lord wanted him to do, and of course, he led the people out of Egypt and led them to the promised land, and God used him in amazing ways. And so sometimes we can kind of pigeonhole ourselves and really put ourselves in a box, like, no, I can only do XYZ. This is what my personality is. This is what my gifts are. And we can really put ourselves in a box and really limit God and what he can do in and through us,
mhm.
and we've been guilty of that, for sure, and maybe some of you have. And thankfully, God works not only just through us but in us, and he doesn't always call us to use what our personality and what our gifts are. Sometimes they could be outside of that, things that we haven't even thought of, things we don't even think um, can be used or are
Mhm.
worthy to be used.
Yeah, like in Second Corinthians 12:9, where it says my power is made perfect in weakness. And yeah, that's definitely true. When we're not leaning on our own
Understanding.
understanding, but also like our own, not power, but giftings, I guess,
Hmm.
or abilities. That's where he really can come through. And it's such a it builds up your own faith and trust in him because you know that that's not naturally
Hmm.
you and what you are normally good at.
Hmm. And that could be a big testimony to others
Mhm,
too, because it's like, oh, he's not naturally gifted in speaking or in singing or
mhm,
in whatever, and the Lord is um using him despite that. Um you know and, and he can use it in other ways too. Obviously, there's plenty of amazing speakers and pastors and singers and you know, guitar players and things like that, that the
mhm,
Lord has gifted them since birth and is using them in amazing ways. But also, He can use people who aren't, we wouldn't think of as naturally gifted at
mhm.
that. And that could be an amazing testimony of what God can and will do in your life. You know.
Yeah, yeah. And I think for us too, not only just in this whole YouTube thing, but we've been really stepping out, more and more just at our church. And we leave Monday, which is just like 2 days away from
Hmm.
now, on the Latin America mission trip, um, and there were a lot of things like when we committed to doing that, the mission trip, you know, we had to um, be on the prayer team at church on Sunday mornings, which we've never done before,
Mm.
and that's honestly like an area where I feel like I want to be like a really good like eloquent prayer warrior. um, and just I just love like, prayer in general, but like when someone just is like has a powerful prayer, just like yes.
Mhm.
And I trip over my words like all the time, and I say a lot of likes and ums and justs, and try, getting better at it, but um definitely not there yet. So, joining the prayer team, I was like, especially that church, like there's just such really strong spiritual people that have been there for many years, and we just feel really inadequate in a lot of ways. And I remember like talking to some of the leaders and being like, we need to be trained like how to pray. And anyway, long story short, like we just kind of had to jump in and do it, and it's been crazy. Like I mean, I know it's silly, and everyone's probably listening to this like good or funny, but it's really not rocket science, I guess.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
sure.
and it's not as difficult as I made it to be in my head,
Mhm.
and like I absolutely love the Sunday mornings that we go up for prayer, and it's just been like the sweetest time with people and the Lord, and I love it. But it was such a, I don't know, like thing of fear, I guess, for a long time of
Mhm.
feeling like just so inadequate, and
Mhm.
my prayers aren't nearly as awesome as other people's. But it's like, how much do we miss out on?
Mhm.
I know that might be a silly analogy, but I know a lot of you can relate to that too, so
Mhm.
whatever. But how much do we miss out on by limiting ourselves and what God, I mean, mostly what God can do
Mhm.
in and through us. And it's just such a cool thing to see when when you make that connection of like, I'm limiting myself and the Lord, and it's keeping me from really awesome things. So
Mhm. Yeah, that fear can be such a
yeah.
barrier for us to do stuff and for God to use
Mhm.
us because God's calling you be like, you know what, I really want to use you for this. And your our fear and our feelings of inadequacy
Mhm.
be like, no, 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 God, you got it all
You
wrong.
got the wrong
Yeah,
people.
yeah, yeah. So you call the wrong dude, that this ain't it, for me. And we miss out on God using us, and God blessing us,
Mhm.
on God blessing others through us. Like he'll be like, fine, you don't want to be used, I'll just go to the next dude. They're willing, so people will be blessed and his name will go forth. But we miss out so much on
Mhm.
just saying, no, I don't think so.
I'm
That
gonna
doesn't,
play it safe here.
yeah, that doesn't sound right,
Yeah.
and like that famous saying goes, I don't know where it came from or who said it first. So let me know in the comments if you guys know who the originator of this was, where it says, God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called.
Mhm.
And that's, I remember hearing that actually not that long ago. And that hit me hard, and it still does, because it's like we feel like we need the qualifications, we need the plaques on our wall, we need the certifications, we need the education, we need all of this stuff to then be used. And there's nothing wrong with that. Obviously, God
Mhm.
uses people who are very well educated and credentialed and all of this, but because you don't have that does not mean that God can't use you.
Mhm.
And if anything, he uses more people who aren't that are as credentialed as he uses people who are, because obviously not all of us have Masters of Divinity plaques on our wall and doctorates
Mhm.
and different things like that. We sure don't. We don't, Bible college, 2-year Bible college degree. We don't. I guess we could hang it on our wall, but why? you know, so it doesn't do much. But we've been through
Yeah.
quite a lot.
Through a whole different type of schooling.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And in a lot of ways, that those 2 years of Bible college when we were really young really has helped us now.
Mhm.
But we've learned a lot more in the years after Bible college than the years in Bible college,
Yeah.
because we've just experienced things personally,
Mhm.
and we've really gone through things that we've just read and learned about, which is great. But going through
Yeah,
it,
but actual experience is
yeah,
whole different.
completely different things, and
Yeah.
a lot of ways, a lot
Mhm.
more difficult, but a lot better, a lot more rewarding as well. Um, so don't be afraid if you really feel like God's calling you to do something that's outside of your comfort zone, outside of what you normally do, or even outside of what you even think a ministry, typically is conceived of. You're not going to be a pastor or a youth minister or a worship leader or a missionary. All these things they're great, and they are needed in the world and in the church. But God uses other people to do other things that are seemingly unorthodox or outside of the norm. And you know um, God uses those people, and he needs those people as well.
Mhm.
So don't be afraid um, to be used
Yeah.
and to do that.
Yep. So to wrap it up, growth happens a lot in uncomfortable places. I think it's good to definitely remember that. We don't really grow a lot when we're comfortable,
Hmm.
and probably why God likes to push us out of, our comfort. um, and it always is to grow us, and that's never a bad thing. It's usually not easy, but it's good. Um, and he wants us to be more like him, and then just some practical, steps, I guess, to if you are finding yourself in this position of God calling you to something that you're not super comfortable um, doing, but you really feel like this is where He's leading you. Just pray honestly and just tell Him, like, this scares me, and like watch Him come through, watch Him take that fear and turn it into a huge blessing in your
Mm.
life. Um, and then number two, I would, say step out in obedience. Yeah, which is I just did a blog post a week or two ago. It actually felt like 2 weeks ago now. But that's been something that's been really um, kind of repeated in my own life lately is obedience and just how important it is. I think we might have even mentioned it last week
Hmm.
in the episode, but you know, don't be disobedient and do it. Do
Yeah,
the thing.
even when it's scary, and a
Hmm.
lot of times it is. I
Yep.
mean, that's just the bottom line. A lot of times it's going to be scary. You're it's called take a step in faith, because that's what it is. A lot
Hmm.
of times you're taking that step, you don't know where the next step is. You don't know what it looks
Or where
like.
that step is gonna land.
Yeah, where you're gonna
Mhm.
land. You're kind of in the dark a little bit. And if you were 100% confident, you knew exactly where all those steps are going to take you, where that path was going to lead you, then it wouldn't really be in faith, because you already know. But God is good at keeping us in the dark about certain things.
Mhm.
so that we can have faith, so that we can trust Him, so that we have to really lean on Him and not just on ourselves. And oh, I got this. I know exactly where this is going to go. I know what's going to happen. But we need that. We need that faith. We need to be uncomfortable so that we can grow, like Melissa was saying. Um, Super important. Another step is just surround yourself with godly people who love you, love the Lord, and who just are not afraid to tell you the truth, and not be afraid to give you good and godly and wise counsel. It's not always going to be what you want to hear, but they'll always tell you the truth, and it's really important to surround yourself with people like that. For a long time, we were not surrounded with people like that. We were pretty isolated, and we're really just now getting to be around people, and having great fellowship with couples our age or older or younger, and it's been great just bouncing things off of them and praying with them, and their encouragement, you know, has been amazing. And just know that not only is God going to do something through you and use you, but He is also doing something in you as well. And He's changing, your perceptions of who you are, who God is, and how God can use you, and how God can do things. Because again, a lot of times we just put ourselves in a box, or put God in a box, or ministry. This is what ministry consists of, you know X, Y, and Z. And if you step out of that, then that can't be right, or that's not the Lord. And sometimes it may not be, and it's important to use that discernment, to know what's Him and what isn't. But again, just because it's not the normal thing doesn't mean that it's not God. And I know one thing that has been bouncing around in my head, especially these last couple of weeks, because God is doing a lot in us, and there's things that are happening, um, maybe too slowly for our liking, or they're not happening the way we thought they were going to happen. But the Lord is, He has, like we talked about last week with our mission trip, like the Lord has provided in ways that we didn't think were going to happen. He's provided fully, which we didn't think was going to happen. And it's like the Lord is doing something. Wait, line this. That's not. Pick it up a little bit. So, a lot of what's been bouncing around in my head is knowing that I don't know what God is doing, but I know He's doing something. And a lot of times we just don't know. Well, we can't see, again, we can't see the end from the beginning. We can't see what the next step is. Sometimes things don't make sense. And He's not doing things the way we think He should be doing them. And we might not know what He's doing, but He's working, He's doing something. And at the end of the day, it's for His glory and for our greater good as well. And it's important for us to realize that. And just because it doesn't fit into our mold, it does not fit into what we think should be happening, does not mean that God is not working. So we just want to encourage you guys with that. Again, we've been there, we are there currently. And God is working, and He's using us, He's using you, and He wants to use you. And it might not look like you thought it would look like, but regardless,
It'll end up looking better.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Most likely.
Most likely. Yeah. Yep.
All right,
For sure.
so that wraps up for today. Um, Again, hit subscribe, like, comment. Let us know in the comments how we can pray for you. Um, Share with someone who needs to hear this message.
Mhm.
We appreciate it so much. So, yeah, we'll
Yep.
see you guys next week.
Yep. Thank you. Love you.
Bye.
Bye.